The one issue that has occupied the mind space of millions of Indians these past few days has been the issue of the CBSE exam leaks. And the man literally in the hot seat, in the eye of the storm, has been the Education Secretary, Anil Swarup. He is our newsmaker this week. Thank you for speaking. It's rare for, senior government functionaries to be willing to take questions. So thank you for that. But it hasn't been an easy few days for you. I can imagine many sleepless nights. Yet you have become, in a sense, the face of the government on this very, very disastrous set of developments where parents and children are up in arms. What can you say to them that would make them feel better at this point?
I have my sympathies with the children and the parents. For no fault of theirs, they have been put to this inconvenience. I wish it had not happened, but it has happened. And once it happens, you have to manage that crisis. It was indeed a crisis. But I am glad that the decisions that we've taken have gone down well with most of the children and the parents. It was indeed a difficult time for us. But I think everyone rallied around to see that we tide over this crisis. We worked hard at it. We looked at all possible options. As I have said in the past, there are no perfect decisions. Some of the children and parents may not agree with the decisions we've taken, but we've done a bit of a cost-benefit analysis, and we came to these conclusions, the decisions that we've taken.
Okay, before I come to the decisions itself and whether, on the re-examination issue or not, the first question that a lot of people have is that the CBSE chief was aware of the leaks before the examination actually took place. And what you'll hear in the drawing rooms of this country are animated debates around why the paper was not rescheduled. Why was this exam allowed to happen when she was well aware? She had information. The papers were sent to her late at night before the exam that a leak had taken place. Why did the CBSE, why did the government not step in at that moment?
Let me explain this whole to you, because this needs to be told. This email through which the chairman CBSE was informed came at 1 o'clock in the night. Okay. And on an official email ID. I am very fond of looking at my emails, but I don't look at my emails in the night. She saw it for the first time at 8:55 when she reached the office. Normal.
So not at 1 a.m. when it was sent?
It was not possible. As I said, even I don't see my mails at late in the night. Okay. It is wrong to assume that she would have seen the mail at that point in time. So when she saw the mail at 8:55, then she sent it across to the controller of examiner to examine whether the paper, so-called leak paper, is actually leak paper. There is a reason behind it. Scores of such papers were floating around and they were said to have been leaked, and each verification in the previous papers had revealed they were not the leak papers, they were papers of previous years shown as leak papers.
So you're saying like this fake news, there were fake leaks as well?
Absolutely, there were fake leaks as well. So she had to get it examined. She got it examined. At around 10 o'clock, the controller of exam examined that the papers shown to have been leaked was actually similar to the one, the original paper. Now what do you do at 10 o'clock? The examinations are about to start. You create a panic by telling people all over the country that stop, don't take exams. The best move was to get the exams going and see what can be done. In hindsight, I think that was a good decision.
In hindsight, don't you think it would have been a neater decision to simply not hold the exam and postpone it to a new date?
How can you postpone it at 10 o'clock when they come all over the country at 10:30? How do you communicate with everybody to hold the exam? And in hindsight, I feel it was good. I'll tell you why. Because this very paper, ultimately we decided not to hold the re-examination.
That was ultimately. No, but there were a few days of complete heartburn and trauma for students and parents.
Saying. No, let us assume that had they called off the exam at that point in time, what purpose would it have served? Because it would have created chaos from 10 to 10:30 when the examination starts. Within half an hour, informing thousands of centers all over the country. First of all, it would have been virtually impossible to convey. Then you would have had a situation, half the exam centers having exams, half centers exams till 1 hour. It would have been chaotic.
So I just want to reconfirm this. You're saying that although she was aware of the leak, it was only on the morning of the exam itself when she read the email, one. Yes. Two, because there have been fake leaks, she had to actually verify that this was an authentic leak.
Absolutely.
And by that time, it was too late to turn students away from the exam center. So there's also a perception of a very sarkari attitude. This was a long weekend. There were many holidays together. For people, they felt that, at that time, the government should have been working. You read about the CBSE offices being closed. This is a vintage, what some would say, a Government of India response.
I'm shocked to hear what I heard. None of the officers was on leave.
You're saying they were not on leave?
Absolutely no. The only person away from Delhi was myself on a very personal account. And I was constantly in touch with the chairman CBSE. She was working towards it. It was a crisis. She obviously couldn't have come to the media straight away without understanding the whole situation. So she was not available to the media, but she was working at it 24/7 we were working at it.
So you're saying the media has misreported this?
I will not like to blame anybody. All I can say what we were doing. It is for the media to decide whether they misreported or said it wrong. Some of them have had the courage to do that. But I would not like to name them. I'd like to look internally and see where we went wrong. And I can go on record to say that each of the officers was at it trying to understand how and why it happened.
So you are saying that in that long weekend that, I'm saying weekend, but it was a bunch of four Government of India holidays. The CBSE did not take a holiday. They were
certainly not. I would like to give on record, no one took a holiday during that time. They were here. I was shocked to learn there were TV reporters going down to Ahmedabad to find out whether she had gone there. It is shocking. I mean, people can go into anyone's personal life to understand what they want to understand. But she was working, not only was she, the whole team of CBSE was at it. They were not accessible to the media at that point in time for very obvious reasons. Until unless you understand the whole issue, you can't go and talk to the media and explain to them.
So in this information age of new technology, and you know this, when information or counter information is not provided, misinformation often occupies that vacuum, right?
I agree.
So looking back, now you are telling me this, even somebody like me, till I met you, I had read this, that there was no one there, that holiday period was taken. Do you believe that this was poorly handled, that in this age of information, somebody should have fronted that conversation with the public immediately, that you all took too long? When I say you all, I mean the government, the department took too long to come out and speak.
I must confess that a lot of civil servants
hesitate
to come to the media. They do. When you tell them, they're hesitant for a variety of reasons, personal and otherwise. And that is why I had personally volunteered when I saw that people were not communicating sufficiently to the media. I volunteered to come to the media. It is not directly related to me, because the crisis had reached proportions where, as you rightly said, we needed to communicate to the media at a bureaucratic level. And I took upon myself to talk to the media. I had personally suggested that I will talk to the media. I've had some experience in interacting with the media, so I was not apprehensive. Yes, a mistake had been made. I had no qualms in admitting that mistake had been made, and we were very clear in mind, we are going to sort it out, and we started working towards it. But you are absolutely right. Perhaps there could have been a better communication strategies, but as is with some of us, some of the civil servants, not everyone is so articulate, eager to
or willing to engage. But it's interesting you say that you took this upon yourself, because there was also a perception that Anil Swarup had been sent out to bat for the government, that politicians were deflecting political responsibility, that bureaucrats had been made the face of the story, that the minister should have been there, that in a sense you were made the face of, when you first took that first press conference, a very, very hostile media, which is natural for the situation, and that politicians should have been there, not bureaucrats.
No, I think it was a joint decision, and no one was running away, and I was not batting for anybody. I was batting for the ministry as secretary of the ministry. It was my job to see that if a wrong has been done, how it could be corrected, and come to the media and talk to them. I don't think anyone was running away from media. There were certain technical details involved. I explained some of them to you. They need to be communicated. I think I was in position to understand and convey to the media as to what actually had happened. There were a lot of misapprehensions going around. And for that, I think a civil servant was required to go into the details of what had happened and explain to the media. And that was my attempt to do it. I would like to reassure you that no one wanted to run away from media. Not at the political level. The minister was very willing to come and talk to the media. But I volunteered and I said, sir, some details have to be explained to the media, and these are few technical details. Let me handle that. And it was really kind of him to have said, please go ahead and talk to the media.
Okay, let's talk about the kind of a yo-yo dimension to the issue of the re-exam. The CBSE's first impulse, intuitively, even before it filed a formal complaint with the police, was to say that the re-examination would take place of both the Class 10 and the Class 12 papers that had leaked. We now know that the Class 10 paper is not being retested anywhere. How did you come to that decision? And if that were the case, why was the first instinct to say a re-exam will happen?
See, if I were chairman CBSE, I would take the same decision.
Why is that?
Because there's a credibility of an examination process. If a paper gets leaked, as chairman of that organization, I would want the examination to be taken again for the credibility of the organization, credibility of the examination system. Right. So I think she took the right decision. Then you look at how the government looks at it. As government representative, as Secretary Government of India, and as the minister, we discussed, because we have to look at the balance of convenience. We have to look at the cost benefit. Let me explain this to you. We were initially of the view of the initial reports, and there is no perfect situation, no perfect information, so decisions are also not perfect. At that point in time, we were given to understand for whatever information that we had, that the information or the paper had leaked in the states of Delhi, NCR and Haryana. So we took a decision that why should the rest of the country suffer on account of a paper leak in Delhi and Haryana. There are 14 lakh students. Now suppose 100,
but in the age of WhatsApp, how do you determine the geography of a leak? You can just forward it to the whole country.
I'll explain that. So this was also argued that in the present day, a leak can be conveyed anywhere in the country and anyone else will benefit. So initially, when we got that information, we said that we will not hold it elsewhere for the simple reason that we have to see what are the implications of a high school examination.
Right.
The implications are as follows. In case of class 12, you get admission to the universities on the basis of your marks that you get here.
Right.
In class 10, there is no such admission involved. It is more of a self-evaluation. It is, till last year, they used to have internal exam. So the implication of that leak would not so great. Now, I'm not saying that's the right situation. The perfect situation would have been or should have been that there should have been no leak. But if it has happened, should I put 14 lakh students to inconvenience just because in that paper, in some places, some leak has happened with no implication whatsoever?
But then shouldn't this have been given more thought before a decision was made to first the announcement of the re-exam, then the partial withdrawal, then the complete withdrawal?
Let me explain.
We have seen 3 stages to this.
No, let me explain that to you. As information kept flowing in, we took decision. See, you have to take decision on the basis of the available information. We can't be, saying that since I took that decision, I'll stand by decision.
Right.
Right. CBSE took a particular decision on particular rationale. Then it came to us, we had certain set of information, we took that decision. Then we examined the copies of these states on a random basis and came to a conclusion, to that analysis, that the results of these states of Bihar, Jharkhand, Delhi and Haryana in maths were worse than last year. Now, if there were leaks, then they should have been better. Both in terms of children getting marks more than 90%, the numbers came down. In terms of children passing, the numbers went up.
So you saw no unusual spikes?
No unusual spikes.
And you saw an average of a lesser performance than last year?
Not only not unusual spikes, in fact it went down. So I am not saying, see, this sample is a small one. Someone can say, how can you come to a conclusion on this small sample?
Right.
See, we can't delay this decision any further. We can't put children to further inconvenience. We have to take a call.
But isn't it true that the public backlash of parents and children also drove this decision?
See, obviously, we took a lot of feedback in terms of understanding the inconvenience of children. We spoke to states, we spoke to parent bodies, we spoke to children. So all this was taken into account. As I keep saying even now, this may not be a perfect decision. There could still be opposition. Some people will still be annoyed. Fair enough. But I think the majority or most of the children and parents are happy with this decision. And I don't think heavens have fallen in terms of our decision that there will be no exam.
So you're saying your sample size showed you A, no dramatic spikes, B, a lesser performance than last year, and C, therefore, also an assessment that this is an internal exam that wasn't impacting competitive admissions.
See, we have to see what is the benefit of re-examination and what is the benefit of not re-examination. We came to this conclusion by holding examination again, we'll unnecessarily put so many children to inconvenience without any consequent benefit.
Why does that same principle not apply to the class 12 exams, which is also a case, by the way, that, as you know, has now been taken to the court?
So courts will ultimately decide and we'll go by the court decision. But what we felt was, there is a consequence of class 12 exam, and as I said in the beginning, the admissions in universities, in number of other institutes, the numbers that they get in CBSE, that determines their future. So that being the case, the implication of that exam made us believe that we should have the.
But sir, if I am a person, a class 12 student who has worked really hard to take that eco exam, then for me to be made to sit through that re-examination is really unfair to me.
It is unfair. I confess that it is unfair to them. I confess they have been put to inconvenience. But again, as I said, it's the balance of convenience. In the context of the implication of this exam, we had no other option but to order re-examination. I know this, again, everyone will not be happy with it.
You say there are no happy answers or no perfect decisions. There are no good answers.
I don't think there is an answer with which everyone will be happy.
There is also a lot of anger about responsibility. There's, what happens in a crisis is you want to see somebody stand up and say, I take responsibility for this. Here, there is that sense, one, you said, okay, the CBSE chief was not talking to the media, she was working, but she was not talking to the media. When you did the press conference, the first demand across media was, sack the CBSE chief. You chose to say, hang on, that's not a fair question. Why were you defending her?
I was defending her because anyone should be sacked or action taken against after due inquiry. And I still say again, if consequent to inquiry, whoever is found guilty, action shall be taken. But to prematurely take action would be very, very unfair. Secondly, ultimate bottom line is improving the system so as to ensure that this thing doesn't recur. Now, let us assume for the sake of argument that the CBSE was not responsible or is not responsible. I think the present incumbent would be in a best position to suggest how the improvement would come about. We must also understand the time she spent there. She's been there for only a few months. And suddenly you start sacking people left, right and center. What is the message that I am going to convey to the organization? After all, we have to work with that organization. But having said that, I can assure you that whoever will be responsible, whoever is found responsible, action, strictest of action which shall be taken against them.
Including the CBSE chief, if that's where the inquiry leads.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's absolutely no doubt at the government level that whoever is responsible. But I am personally of the view, we should not do this thing of hanging people even before an inquiry, even before we come to the conclusion that a person is responsible. We've already taken action against one such officer at the junior level, but we will not spare anybody if there is anything found.
The reason that these sort of questions come up beyond public rage is to avoid blame being apportioned at a junior level only. So for example, now we know that there were 2 teachers in Bhavana, there was a coaching center involved, there's a junior official involved, but a big crisis like this cannot be conducted just by 3-4 individuals at such a small level. Would you concede that when responsibility has to be apportioned, when that is?
I totally agree with you. As I keep saying time and again, the inquiry is still on. If it concludes that so and so is responsible, he or she action shall be taken against them. But let me explain another thing to you. Even the lowly official who has been seen to have been involved, there is no allegation of collusion against him so far, at least. It's merely his supervision was lax, and that is why action has been taken.
So at the moment you're looking at incompetence, not corruption?
No, I am telling you what I am looking at. That is how it has come up. But the inquiry is still on, so I don't want to give a judgment.
So far, it has not been collusion.
Absolutely. So whatever comes in the inquiry, we're going to take action.
There have been debates around whether different sets of examination papers would secure the system or make it more leakage proof.
Let me explain this to you. This was done in the case of NEET examination.
Yes, different languages and different sets of papers.
But there was criticism. They said if you're going to compare the two, then how do you compare if the papers are different? So there are arguments both ways. Whereas leakage probably may become a bit more secure because leakage can then be limited to a particular
What do you
area.
personally feel?
No, I think it should be a uniform paper.
A uniform
Absolutely. Paper. Today, it would be hindsight wisdom. I have done that in coal, I have done that before, used technology to make systems fully foolproof.
Yes.
I can guarantee for coal, no one can mess up with the auction system of coal. We can use similar technology here. And I am already thinking in terms of how we can use technology to actually make a foolproof system.
For example?
Then you will ask me, why didn't you do it earlier? No, you can't do it. You can't,
There's talk of encrypted exams at the encrypted papers at the exam center.
No,
and then
simply I can tell you, this is one such example and many such examples. I give an encrypted paper, put it on CDs and sent it across to centers. Half an hour before the examination, I give them the decrypting code. They decrypt it, print it because 150 students are involved, print it and give it to them. This is a simple thing. But there could be many other things. Having used technology in a variety of ways in every function that I have.
Yes, the question will arise, then why didn't you do it this time?
So, see, a system was going on for 4-5 years. I don't want to unnecessarily get into that. And in any case, secretary education, individual organizations are not my domain, so to say. I am a bit distant. Like in the Ministry of, in the Department of Education, we've digitized all files. We've digitized all, we don't have a file, we don't have a paper in this office. We've done it here. CBSE, I had asked them, they're digitizing the whole system. They will digitize examination also. Today, technology allows us to make things totally transparent.
But what about when technology either fails, either because of collusion or incompetence? For example, there are reports where these teachers were actually picked up and, who were seen to be colluders in this leak, that the CCTV cameras didn't record anything. Now, how can it be that the CCTV cameras didn't record anything?
I would like to even make CCTV cameras redundant. I'm telling you, today technology is, I have the confidence because having done it in coal.
You've used it, yes.
Coal is a foolproof system. Totally transparent. There is manual intervention is virtually being reduced to nil. So we can do that in examinations also. I have been in touch with some people around the world and they tell me it can be done. I already had an idea. So certainly we'll do it. And my objective before I retire on 30th of June is to put in place a system so that it becomes a foolproof system. and it cannot be tampered with.
Sir, in the end, educationists have pointed out that what has happened is a symptom of a larger systemic malaise, right? That the education system in some ways is broken down, that you have this entire commercialization, you have affiliated schools which are not accountable, you have these coaching centers that are like, these factory producing organizations run on commerce where they have to show the numbers, that they are incentivized to leak because they want to tell the next set of people, you come here, we'll get you these kind of results. In your tenure here, what do you find most broken about the schooling system?
Let me explain this to you. I'll give you a different example here. When I was in coal ministry, I was grappling with mafias there. But they're visible mafias.
Right.
And one could take them on. And to a certain extent, we sorted it out. How did we sort it out? We didn't grapple with the mafias. The mafias existed because shortage of coal. We increased the production of coal and the mafias died down naturally.
Right.
In education, there are some fundamental flaws here. The mafias are underground, not overground. You have host of mafias here. And I won't like to.
I was just going to say, would you elaborate on who these mafias? What kinds of mafias?
It may not be appropriate.
What kinds of mafias?
There are variety of they are into publishing, they are into schooling. There are variety of mafias. There are education. One I can mention straight away. The B.Ed colleges. We have around 16,000 B.Ed colleges in the country, and everyone knows that quite a few of them don't function at all. If you pay them well, you get a degree. If you pay better, you get a naukri as well. So that's the situation.
So they're the equivalent of shell companies of the education sector.
What we did was we asked them to furnish affidavits. 4,000 did not even furnish affidavits. So we started issuing them notices. Of course, they went to the court. Now the matter is in the court, and court will decide what we do next.
So
just to give you an example, that these sort of mafias, imagine the quality of teachers that we'll get in the system from such institutes. So we are looking at the entire continuum of teachers, how the teachers are trained before they get into the service. What is the methodology of getting into service? You are aware that one of the chief ministers is behind the bars for selection process. Then when they get into the system, what is the training that gives to them? Then when they are there in the school, whether they're actually there, a study report reveals that 30% of teachers don't go to the school. Now if the teacher doesn't go to the school, what am I going to teach him? But we are using technology in all these 4 segments to see how we can improve it. To give you an example, so let me complete this. We have experimented with a tablet, GPS-linked tablet in Chhattisgarh to take attendance of the teacher. And in Andhra Pradesh, they've done it on their own. The results are absolutely amazing.
So you're taking the attendance of the teacher, not of the students?
Not the students. I have to get the teacher there. My problem, when people talk about education, and in Delhi, they don't understand what I'm discussing. The teacher doesn't go to the school as call. I won't name the state. In one state, they engage a second teacher, para teacher, pay him a certain amount. That teacher goes on his behalf. So we have, it's a very, very complex system.
I was going to ask you if the mafiosi of the education sector is more dangerous than the mafiosi of the coal sector.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about it. These mafias are destroying the future of this country. It is absolutely crazy, I tell you. And we've taken them on. For whatever it is worth, the battle is on. Let's see what happens.
Before we let you go, when you look back, every crisis has a learning. You've said that as well. What has been your learning on behalf of the ministry? What is the one mistake that you think that could have been avoided in hindsight? And the one learning?
One, we perhaps could have been more communicative in the beginning, as you also put it.
Yes.
I am firmly of the view that whether I'm liked or not, I should be communicative. I should be talking. I should be explaining. I should be telling. If I don't do that, then communication gap multiplies the problem. That's one lesson that I learned from this. I was always aware of this, but as I said, on account of a personal issue, I could not attend to it immediately. I would have done that had I been in Delhi. Yes. The moment I returned, I had that press conference. That is lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, I think in organizations like CBSE, there is enormous scope for use of technology to set things right. And I think we'll be at it now.
Well, Anil Swarup, I will say thank you in particular because, as you said, not too many bureaucrats are willing at your level of seniority to come and take questions. So thank you at least for that. It has been a rough few days for you as well as for children and parents, and it isn't yet over. Thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.